Bum, bum, bum. G'day, ZiggyD here. Yes, I died. My magic item only character has ripped into standard. I was moving through Cruel Lunaris, Act 3, and I died a little bit sooner than I expected because things were going pretty well. I had about over 2k HP, which is usually what I aim to have around Cruel Dominus, and that's usually more than enough HP to get through Cruel Dominus safely. And I usually aim for about 75, 75 fire, a little bit under lightning's okay, and cold can be like 50%, and that usually feels pretty safe. But, moving through this, all my stats and everything were in order, but I still managed to die. So, let's take a look at the RIP video, and then we'll break it down, see what happened, and see what we can learn from it. Jesus, man. This is intense. Yeah, this is a bad spot to be fighting, but I need to head up that way. I mean, I could just try and roll YOLO run past it, but I think I've almost killed it now. It's almost dead. But yeah, really awkward spot to fight it for sure. Jesus, man. If I had Pierce, this would be a lot easier. I gotta get that running. Oh, shit! Oh, there we go! There we go. Wow, that happened very quickly. I think I got hit by a zombie and then by the ground slam. There we go, guys. Ugh. It came a little bit sooner than I was expecting. Well, maybe you guys were right. Maybe I should have skipped it. I was just starting to get a bit confident with the Living Blood, and then that one happened. Jeez. There we go. That was a pretty entertaining rip, though. Those Living Blood guys, they mean business. They mean business. Alrighty guys, so let's break it down here in slow motion. I'm going to use Sony Vegas so that you guys can see frame by frame exactly what happened. Initially when I died, I thought I died to a ground slam plus a fire plus a zombie hit. And that was because I just simply couldn't believe that it could have been the zombies that killed me. But that is actually exactly what happened. So let's go ahead and very slowly inch this forwards just here. Now just here, right on this frame, we can see we take a hit from, I believe it's this zombie just here. You can see his arms have sort of come down. So if I back it up a little bit, he winds up for the swing and then takes the swing. I take the hit just there. There could be a little bit of desync involved, so it's a bit hard sometimes to tell exactly which zombie is hitting you in particular. And you can see the amount of damage that one zombie punch just does right there. So that's the chunk of, like 500 HP or so that I take from that one zombie hit just there. So, moving forwards, I then get hit by another zombie almost immediately after. This is less than a 100th or a tenth of a second later. And then followed up by a third zombie punch. We take a third zombie punch just here. That's another 600 HP, so that's a pretty hefty zombie whack just there. And then finished off by a final zombie punch, ending my life. So 4 zombie punches. Now this happens in the space of 1.1 seconds, so it does happen very quickly. You can see that I do pop my my spacebar flask just here about this point, and then because it's a heal over time flask though, it starts to tick up, but I die pretty much immediately before that really has a chance to make any sort of difference. So let's sort of talk about zombies, guys. Let's talk about zombies. These guys, I think people like to think of the zombies as a not very threatening mob in Path of Exile. They're kind of slow and lumbering and dumb, and they don't hit very often and all that. And I think people tend to underestimate exactly what they can put out. Now, I've been aware for a long time the potential danger that zombies can represent in Path of Exile, and yet I didn't respect that danger. I didn't really take it on board. I didn't really take that information. I knew, but I didn't really take it on. If I had taken it on board, I would have been much more cautious of these zombies, because I would have known these guys have the potential of killing me very quickly if a few things happen or if a few things go wrong. And in that case, I would have gone back to town and refilled my flasks. Now, throughout the fight, you know, I had fine flasks. I was killing the zombies and they were refreshing my flasks. But towards this part, I knew that I knew that the living blood was almost dead. I was trying to sort of finish him off. You can see I actually, I ignored the zombies here, trying to go for the living blood. Now, my thought process here, why I didn't go back to town was, firstly, why didn't I just skip the living blood? That sort of came up. People asked that while I was fighting him even. Why don't you just skip him? He was actually in the path, like Lunaris has a few sections where you can only go one direction to continue forwards. So I kind of knew I had to get through past him or I had to reset Lunaris. And, you know, I didn't want to keep resetting Lunaris every time I ran into living blood or something like that. So I wanted to man mode him. I wanted to take him down. Now, I probably could have, like, Quicksilver and ran past him, something like that, but, you know, I was in the arbitrary challenge mindset, so I wanted to try and kill him. Now, I didn't go back to town because space is actually my debuffs bleed. It's my staunching flask. So I was basically under the sort of, in my mind, I was thinking the main danger from the congealed blood was his bleed, because the bleed is the big thing that does a ton of damage. Earlier in the fight, he hit me with the bleed, took me down the half, like, almost instantly, because of how much damage that bleed actually does. So I thought, as long as I've got the Dispels Bleed flask, I'm fine. You know, there's not much really danger apart from that. The fire explosions do almost nothing. You know, the ground slam hurts a bit, but mostly it's the bleed that ends up killing you. Didn't really think about the zombies. Didn't really give them enough credit. So let's talk about zombies, guys. What is it about zombies that you should respect and fear? Now, zombies hit incredibly hard. You can see that when I actually take these hits, how much damage I take per chunk. You know, 500 HP per zombie punch, 500 to 700 HP approximately per zombie punch. So zombies hit very hard. The thing about zombies that makes them seem very non-threatening is, firstly, they're slow. They have a very slow attack speed, they move slowly, and most of the time you just kind of kite them, or you just even like dodge their attacks as their swings come down, and it's a non-issue. And then when they do like finally potentially connect with you, you'll either evade or block them or something like that, or they'll just miss. And that leads into the second part. Zombies have low accuracy. So zombies are slow and they have low accuracy. This combination means that you very rarely actually ever get hit by zombies, and if you do, it's very rarely by more than one zombie at a time. You know, take a zombie punch, you know, you have like a second or two to flask up before the next zombie connects. In this case, I got punched by 4 zombies in the space of 1 second, so I got a bit unlucky. But I should have known. I knew in the back of my mind that zombies are dangerous and that zombies can potentially do this. This danger is always there whenever you're fighting a pack of zombies, and you do need to be aware of it. You do need to have that respect. It's one of those things. It's one of those sort of hardcore things. When you're playing hardcore, you need to be prepared for the 1% chance of death. You know, the thing that's going to kill you 1% of the time, and that's zombies. Zombies are not going to kill you, you know, most of the time. Most of the time, it's going to be a non-issue. Most of the time, I run past the zombie packs that don't even hit me. One hits me and I heal and it's not a problem. But very occasionally, RNGesus has something else to say, and he decides that 4 zombies are going to hit you. They're gonna roll those hits in the space of less than a second, and you have very limited time to react. Now, what could I have done to avoid this? Firstly, going back to town to refill my flasks would have made a big difference. You see that I do pop a flask in here. I think it's about just this point just here. I do pop this flask. Now what I do is when my life hits low this point, I've developed the muscle memory over time that I usually hit Q and space. They're my panic flasks. Space dispels bleeds and is usually a powerful heal. Sometimes I have an insta heal on there, but usually it's a heal over time, and Q is an instant heal. So I usually have a seething or a bubbling on Q, and the idea is that I dispel any bleeds that might happen. I dispel shock usually I have on Q, and I insta heal, and then I hit a powerful heal over time at the same time. So that's what my hand does as soon as that happens. So depending on your flask setup, that might be like 1 and 5 or something like that, but or 1 and 3. But for me, it's Q and space, and I mash those both at the same time whenever my health drops below half, basically. And I did that in this case. Like, I hit space and Q at the same time, but I didn't have that Q flask, and that Q flask would have saved me, because it was very unlikely that a 5th zombie or a 6th zombie that would have hit me. And if I had have hit an insta heal flask, it would have healed me enough to take another 1 or 2 zombie punches and get out of there alive. So I wouldn't have died if I had refilled my flask. Chat was even telling me about it. Chat was like, go back to town, you know. Chat was like, be more careful. Like, don't just skip the mob. Go back to town. I was like, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. The zombies are not that dangerous. I got the bleed under control. I got the dispels bleed flask. Ignore it. It's all fine. It's gonna be fine. It wasn't fine, guys. And then the second part of that is, if you are fighting against zombies, even though they hit you very rarely, do realize they hit you for a lot of physical damage, and having that granite up all the time if you're sort of in melee range of zombies is going to help a lot. Even if I hadn't have hit those life flasks, if I had that granite, it would have washed their damage to like 300 to 400 per punch, and I probably would have survived, because again, unlikely that I would have been hit by another zombie punch following that. Would have had a chance to back out, teleport back to town, log out or heal or whatever it needs to take. So that's kind of how it. That's the most important thing, right? Being aware of the potential threat that zombies can have, even if it's a very unlikely threat, and then recognizing going back to town because of that threat is, it's always a good idea to go back to town if your flasks are low. I got cocky. I thought it was okay. I was only focused on one avenue of death, but I didn't open my mind to the potential of the zombie death as well, So that maybe is a good thing to learn about tunnel visioning in PoE. Focusing on, I'm going to, the most likely thing to kill me is this lightning. I need to be super careful about this lightning, or I need to be super careful about this bleed. Try and open your mind up to the other avenues of death as well, and even if you don't want to sort of like think about all of the potential options of death, at least refresh your flasks. So the second thing here is specifically for the blue item challenge. So that's the gameplay mechanics and game knowledge side of things of the death, and that's the most important. That's like 90% of the death was that. The other 10% of the death was the blue items challenge. Now, obviously, there's some drawbacks to playing a blue items challenge, but as I said, I had the appropriate amount of HP. I had the resist, not that that mattered in that particular instance, but my character was doing well. My character was doing fine, except for one thing that sort of you don't pay as much attention to when it comes to a blue item challenge, and that's that it's actually pretty difficult to get armor. Now, my character at this point only has 500 armor. That's like almost nothing, and usually at this point you'd have maybe like 1k, a little bit more armor, but if you're paying careful attention to it and you are being very cautious and you are being a very smart hardcore player, then maybe you're trying to be a little bit better than that. Maybe you're getting 1500 to 2k armor at this point. 500 armor is almost nothing, and it does almost nothing against those zombie punches, but another 1000 armor or so would make a significant difference. And the reason why that is a particular challenge for the blue item challenge and contributed to my death, because maybe with that extra armor I might not have died. I would have been able to survive another zombie punch and get out of there potentially. So the reason for that is that you only have one prefix available to you, and life is always the best option there. But if you're taking that life, you can't get that increased armor. You can't get that flat added armor. You can't get that percentage increased armor. And the base armor from items, especially if you're playing an Eldritch Battery character like I am, and you're using Armor ES items, is pretty low. And when you're leveling, you're often using random stuff like armor evasion gear and stuff like that as well. So even though I have a little bit of increased armor here, I'm using armor evasion gear, and the extra mitigation potentially would have helped if I had been playing a regular character that kind of just incidentally got a bunch of armor and increased armor. So that definitely had a contributing sort of factor to my death, and that's one thing I sort of realized after the death about sort of a restriction or an extra challenge about the blue item challenge. I didn't initially think about how that would be an important factor to consider. I thought, you can get life and resists and you're easy mode, you're all good to go. I didn't really think about the fact that I wouldn't end up with very much armor, and yeah, that was definitely a contributing factor. And the result of that is, if I had gone back, I would have again paid much more careful attention to making sure I had that granite flask up all of the time whenever I was facing anything that deals physical damage. Being aware of my character's low base armor means that you have to overlap that with something else. That means either using Enduring Cry. I had an Enduring Cry gem in my stash that I could have put a little bit more strength on, could have put it in here, could have been using that against the zombies. That also would have saved me. So that's the sort of the second part of the death, is just being aware of your character's weaknesses. This applies to every character, not just blue item, magic item challenge characters, but being aware of your character's weaknesses and then doing your best to cover those weaknesses, using those immortal calls, using those enduring cries, using those granite flasks. All of those things would have saved me as well. So a simple death on the surface, but a few interesting little things to take away from it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the analysis and the breakdown video and the recap of my death. I had a lot of fun with this challenge. I'm going to be playing some Skyforge over the next few days, but there is a Path of Exile 1 month challenge or race coming up soon, so I'll be checking that out. And then of course we have not long until Act 4, guys. Get hyped for Act 4. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.